Okay, we're going to talk about the reason number 3 why your mortgage application is not approved, and this is the property. So let's go dive into all the reasons why a property can be declined and the thing that we can do to solve that. Number 1, property valuation issues. This is the most common one and the people that pay more attention. Of course, if you send an appraisal and the appraisal has a low appraisal value, the lender will only lend based on the lower amount of the appraisal or the purchase price. If the appraisal is higher, they will use the purchase price. If the appraisal is lower, they will use the lower appraisal value. And that means that you have to put more down payment, and that can create a problem. So we will have in that case to troubleshoot, and in the down payment section that in the videos that I'm creating here in the series of videos, you will see how you can create another down payment or troubleshoot the down payment if this is the case. We've seen in certain parts, especially in BC and Ontario, overinflated purchase prices. Some people do weird things where they increase the value of a property thinking that the bank will not find out and that you can create a down payment. That is not the case. Be aware, you shouldn't get involved in things like that. You just have to go with market value and work with the real value of the property. So this is the number 1 reason. Number 2, structural or physical deficiencies. If the property is in poor condition, a lot of people think that the only thing that the bank look at in an appraisal is the value. No, they look at the condition of the property. They look at the comment on the appraiser. If the appraiser says that there is asbestos or radon or mold or something, the bank will pay attention to that, and they may decline the application or the property because of that. They will not decline you as a borrower, but they will decline the property, and the mortgage cannot be put in place. So be always mindful of that. They look at everything in the appraisal. You have to also be mindful of the MLS listing to make sure that the property is in good shape. Also, if there's illegal additions, they want to make sure that the property is compliant with zoning. So if you have, especially for example in BC, a property disclosure statement showing illegal additions, the bank will require further confirmation or further documentation to make sure that the property is in good shape. Okay, so these are some of the structural or physical deficiencies. Now, zoning and land use problems. You may have an approval with a very good rate and you buy the property, and in the due diligence process that you realize that property may be zoned commercial or mixed use. Now the residential rate may not apply to you, and we may have to resubmit if you really want that property on another area of the bank, which is the commercial lending, and now the rate is higher and it creates tons of problems. So be mindful of the zoning and land use. If the zoning should be residential and the use of the land need to meet the regulations, and that there is any development restrictions, that this may not come into play, but you have to be aware of the zoning all the time. Now, property type restrictions. Most people think that banks like to own real estate. They don't. What they want to do is lend money. They don't want to become owners of a lot of property. In fact, if that happens, it creates a liquidity problem for the bank, and the bank financial returns may go down. So believe me, they don't want to own real estate, and they will try to avoid that at all costs. In fact, this is one way they try to avoid it. They look at the property in very detail. So if I love this picture, if your property is very unique, they may decline that property because they know that unique properties are difficult to sell in case they have to repossess the property and sell it for market value. Another one is very important: age of the property. Most and this is a common mistake for real estate agents. If you are a real estate agent, learn this. In an appraisal, and I'll give you an example, a lot of agents will say, don't worry about the appraisal because the value is there. Yes, but I've had a situation, I'll tell you an example of a situation where we have a 30-year mortgage. The appraisal goes in, the value comes at the right place, but the appraiser says in the appraisal that the economic life of that property is 20 years. When they say that, the bank will not give a 30-year mortgage. They will cut down the amortization from 30 years to 15 years, or 5 years prior to the economic life. Now what happens? The payment doubles, and now your client may not get the approval, may just get 60% of the money that they were pre-approved for. So this is very important to look at the age of the property, and that's a consideration always on an appraisal. So just be mindful, because this could derail your application, and it also will not become affordable for your client, because now instead of having payments over 30 years, you will have payments over 15 years. The payment will double. Not a good situation to be at. Title issues. If you have to, especially on refinances on purchases, a lot of people are looking at the title. The real estate agent, the realtor, and the bank will look at the title. On refinances, if there's other liens on encumbrances, sometimes even people are not aware that maybe a relative put a lien on the property because they claim they have rights on that property. You may have a lien on the property. You have to look at your title to make sure that there is not issues. Maybe an ex-spouse or a son or a daughter or somebody, or maybe a trade that claimed that you were not that they were not paid and he did work on your property. All those people can place liens, and unless that is resolved, you cannot move ahead with the mortgage. So we just have to be proactive in our office. We're proactive. We look at the title search and we make sure that there's nothing of that nature. Fraudulent activity is self-explanatory, and pending and legal disputes, it's very related to the liens part that we talk about. Now, marketability concerns. If the property is in a remote location, a lot of lenders will not want to lend that because, for example, some lenders have restrictions on the property has to be within certain range of a major urban center, or it has to be in a town with XYZ number of inhabitants. Okay, have in mind that the solution to this is also can also be found with government programs, because if you find a program that would be able to insure that property, when you place insurance, saying that the government says, yes, if there's any issue with the property, I am gonna back you up, lender, then you can overcome the remote location issue. If it's a declining market or overbuilt neighborhood, those two are related. When there's developers building, let's say, too many units in a market, all those units going to market at the same time may, in order to sell them, there not be enough buyers, so they will start reducing the value. So you need to be aware, because you may buy a property in a declining market 6 months prior, and when you do the valuation or the appraisal 6 months later, the value of that property have a lower value, and now you get into trouble, and we need to troubleshoot that solution. So just be aware of these issues. Inadequate insurance coverage. Because of global warming, there is a lot of flood zones right now. If you're buying a property close to a river or close to a lake, you need to make sure that they're not in a flood area. The bank will require 100% that you have good insurance coverage, and you need to also do double check before taking that mortgage, because maybe the rate is great, the payments are great, but now your insurance coverage is through the roof because of something you were not aware. So you need to be aware of this, both on the waterfront and on the fire zone. Okay, now next one, condo and strata issues. When you're buying a condo property or a townhome, not only your unit need to be in good shape, but the whole building needs to be in good shape. The lender will know if the building has special assessments. Perhaps they have had deferred maintenance, so they haven't done the maintenance on the whole building. Maybe the roof, maybe there is rain screening problems, maybe the balcony need to be replaced, and there is a large expenditure. The bank will decline that application because of the property until those remedies are fixed or all those repairs are done. So you have to be aware of that, and not only your unit but also the whole building. Look through the financial documents, will help you make sense of those documents, because sometimes they're too long and too big. But you have to make sure that the condo corporation or the Strata corporation is in good health, and that there's not very many restrictions. There may be, if you're buying a property, as silly as it sounds, you may buy a property as a rental, but the Strata or the condo has rental restrictions. If that happens, we have an issue with the approval, because we need to guarantee to the lender that you will be able to rent that property. So just be aware and read all the documents, and we'll help you with that. And if you have issues, let us know, because we can troubleshoot those issues. Environmental of land use problems. If your property is close to, let's say, a gas station, you may have contaminated land. This is more relevant in commercial applications, but it can happen in residential applications. Let's say you have, or you were not disclosed, or the lender finds out that you have an underground oil tank that used to be very common in the past. In those cases, you may have a decline because of the property, unless they remove the tank and they certify that the land is not contaminated on time. Sometimes you just need to have enough time to solve the problem, but if the problem becomes too long, you may need to find another property and realize that that problem exists, and backed out of that purchase before it's too late. Okay. Also, protected land, leasehold properties, very important. Leasehold properties sometimes are appealing because the value is lower compared to other properties around that area. The reason is because you do not own the land, you rent the land. There is special lenders that will finance those properties. Not every lender, special lenders. And when that happens, you need to be aware that the reason why they take special care is because they want to look at the lease of the land. They will have, and you need to have enough time in your approval process for that to happen with the lender. And also for you to be aware that there's a reason why the value is lower, is because you don't own the land. Usually in freehold applications, the land goes up in value, the building depreciates or goes down in value, but the overall property goes up in value. In those type of leasehold lands, they may go in value, but because they don't own the land, that is restricted, so the lender will take additional care. And you need to know as well that when we sell the property, there is not enough lenders to finance that property, so that will also restrict the price. Issues with property documentation. The banks don't take words as proof of anything. So even if we tell them that the property is okay, they will not accept that unless we have complete paperwork. So whatever we do, we need to find the paperwork that we need to get on time, so this doesn't happen. And make sure that we have buildings that are compliant. Sometimes there's additions that are non-compliant, or they haven't been reviewed by the city. Some lenders will decline the property outright. Some other lenders, maybe local lenders that know the property and the regulations more carefully, they will allow for that to happen. Maybe an exception can be done, or the guidelines for a particular lender will allow that non-compliance. So it's always something that you have to look at. Okay. Issues with property documentation. This is what we discussed before. Rental and income property concerns. If you have a lot of vacancies, the lender may not feel confident about that zoning or that area because of that. Zoning violations and low rental income. This has to do more with income, but also the property is bringing income. So you need to make sure that the property can have the income that we're stating in the application. This is also very helpful, especially when you're buying a property with a basement suite or another building within the property that has income. We want to use that income to pay down the mortgage and to perhaps having a higher mortgage approval. So we need to make sure that that income on that property can be shown to the lender with the proper documentation, so you don't have issues with this. And the calculation with the lender are enough for you to get the approval. There are specific lender policies. That's more of our job. Believe me, being a mortgage broker, I know it seems like it's all rosy and fun and brokers make lots of money. Well, first of all, not a lot of brokers make a lot of money. Number two, talking about properties, you have to learn the rules of the lenders. If I deal with 20 lenders, I have to learn the rules from the lenders and have very good relationships to know what the specific rules are. And that's how we can get sometimes approvals in place where a major bank has declined a property because we isolate the problem and we find a lender that can work with that problem, and then the approvals are done. Have in mind there is rules like lending cap, conflict or limit. So there's some lenders that will limit the number of properties that you can own or the number of properties that you can finance through them. So those issues we need to review and find alternative solutions, or a lender that does have those lender specific rules for your appraisal to go through. Okay. Share ownership or co-op issues. Again, this is very similar to leasehold when you have shared ownership or co-op issues. Co-op issues are where you're buying shares in a condo corporation where everybody owns the building, but you are assigned a unit inside that building. That's called properties or fractional ownership. Have in mind that in those cases, not all the lenders will approve that. Only specific lenders, maybe only one or two lenders, will approve that loan, and you will have to accept the terms of that lender because there is no other solution. And also have in mind when you sell the property, the new buyer will have the same issues. So if they don't have cash to pay for that unit, they may have to place a mortgage on another property in order to get financing, or basically because there's not a lot of financing solutions, the value of that property may not go up over time. So those are some things that you have to consider. And flooding and water damage risks, we know that you need to be careful when you're close to a river, close to a lake, close to the ocean for water damage, that you have proper insurance. Same with fire risks. There has been fires all over in Canada, in the US. So if you have been in a place where there's been a big fire, the lender may pose issues unless we can show them that the insurance coverage is affordable and it's good enough for the lender to move ahead. The worst thing, the thing that the lender will not want is to give you a loan on a property and then that property gets burnt down and there is no property anymore and you still have to make the payments, okay? And there is no money to restore or recover the property. So you have to be aware of these things. In summary, there is so many factors on the property side that can derail an application. Don't be worried, don't be concerned. I'm here to tell you that there is hundreds, thousands of solutions to every specific problem. Work with our office. We'll have the due diligence. We'll know what the issues is, and we'll troubleshoot solutions for you to get the property that you really want. My name is Camilo Rodriguez. I am super passionate of helping people build wealth with debt. I'm the past president of the BC Mortgage Broker Association, father of two beautiful kids. I'm a proud husband. We've been married 25 years. I love soccer. I love to travel. I love family life. Let's solve all the property issues so you can get your mortgage to the property that you really, really like. All the best.